grudge money. On behalf of Guru Maharaj, all the disciples, I'd like to pay the most humble obeisances to Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar, Sri Sri Govindai, Sri Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Sri Prabhupada, and our own Sri Prabhupada. We pray that their lordships become pleased with the glorification of his devotee. Because if the Lord becomes pleased, then there is nothing else more to achieve. I'd like to show our appreciation for the senior most Vaishnava present, His Holiness Sri Maharaj. His Holiness Sri Maharaj ki! I'd like to also show our appreciation for the many disciples of Srila Prabhupada who are present. I'd like to show appreciation for Ram Govind Maharaj. Sri Ram Govind Maharaj ki! I'd like to also thank all the assembled Vaishnavas. Please shower your blessings so that today can be a very successful day. It's a very difficult day for the disciples and the friends of His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj. But it's also a day of celebration. We're celebrating his life, which is glorious. I'd like to call upon His Holiness Sri Maharaj first. Sri Maharaj relayed to us yesterday that he has come for his friend, His Holiness Krishna. He hasn't come for his disciples, but actually, by his presence, we felt the most reassuring comfort. And I personally really had to thank Maharaj. In the past, so many things have happened, Maharaj. And I'd like to apologize for all of my mistakes and the foolish behavior. But you've truly shown when there's a need, a friend will come. What is that saying?
A friend in need.
A friend in need
Is a friend indeed.
Is a friend indeed. And Maharaj, this will not be forgotten by the disciples and friends of His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj. We will not forget.
Pragosh Prabhu sent me something to read, and Pragosh Prabhu is GBC of the UK. He has therefore both connection with as well as relationship with Maharaj over the years. He took over after I left the UK. So this is a short message that he wrote. Dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my sincere condolences for the physical loss of your dear Guru Maharaj on Wednesday. Of course, we know that essentially this is a glorious event and that Maharaj is now back at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. There is little doubt of that, given the divine arrangement that was made for him to leave this world just as he entered the most sacred and holy of holy dhams, Sri Vrindavan. I last met Maharaj about a year ago in Leicester, England, where I spent about 2 hours with him, and he was very kind and caring towards me. Even though the meeting was planned to be shorter and Maharaj's health was not great, it went on much longer. The meeting itself was meant to be about 1 or 2 specific topics, but what happened was I asked him about his life in general, as I really didn't know him that well. And he then told me his whole history, from the time he was a boy to growing up, to coming to the West, to meeting Srila Prabhupada, and then right up to the present day. To be honest, I was completely captivated, and I could have listened all day. When Maharaj finally had to take a little rest, we embraced, and I offered my obeisances, and he wished me well, and said he would pray for me to always remain in the service of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. I felt truly honored to have that blessing from such a saintly Vaishnav, and it is a day that I will always remember. Wishing you all well on the bittersweet but auspicious day. Your servant, Pragosh Das. Hare Krishna. As I was saying these Om Jnana prayer, I remember once when I'd given class at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Afterwards, Krishnadas Maharaj came to me and he said, Maharaj, you need to be more careful about your Sanskrit pronunciation. We had a very, very cordial and warm relationship. And I'll speak, I won't take too much time because I think there will be other devotees who would like to speak. A new Maharaj over a period of 35 years, especially the first 25 of that, because when I came to the UK in 1980, he was there, and I was really based in the United Kingdom up until I think 2000 something, 2003, 2005. When I moved to Hungary, then the amount of time I spent in the UK was much less. I just visit once a year. Usually I went in January, and Maharaj, as he was getting older, got into the practice of not being in the UK in the winter because of the cold weather. So he would either be in India, or he would be in South Africa or in Africa. A few of the things I may say, I may be repeating because I mentioned them, and of course you may know, disciples may know, but there are other devotees here, and knowing a Vaishnava, glorifying a Vaishnava, is enlightening, a wonderful thing. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya, we say that Vaishnavas are like desire trees, and truly they are. My experiences with Maharaj was, he's quite a bit older. He's almost 20 years old. He's 17 years older than I am. So we had this relationship of an older brother, and although at the same time I was the GBC. From 1987 I was the GBC of the UK. And this Pragosh here, Prabhu, said, Maharaj, he was a kathakar, he was a wonderful speaker. And once he started talking, he could go on and on. And particularly, I had experience of that in personal discussions when I would ask him about something. Usually I'd ask him about Indian culture, Indian tradition. He was very learned since his childhood. He read all the Puranas and he read general scripture. What was really sort of new to him was Gaudiya Vaishnavism, at least new to his upbringing. Krishnadas Swami Maharaj was born in a Vaishnava family, and he was initiated into the Madhava Sampradaya. And he came to the UK as a teacher, married man. One day, a devotee, in the meantime, and he was living in London. One day, a devotee knocked on his door. According to Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj, who was also in UK at that time, in London, Charnar Vrindavan Das was knocking on his door, and Maharaj was really shocked to see a Western Vaishnav selling Bhagavad-Gitas. and he became extremely enlivened and enthusiastic to see that. And of course, immediately he wanted to know what it was, and we were in Bury Place still at that time. And so he started to visit, and he met Srila Prabhupada. And amongst his meeting, had a very interesting conversation with Srila Prabhupada, which if you've ever read any of his Vyas Puja offerings, many of his Vyas Puja offerings included that. And it's very telling because for me, probably the most extraordinary activity that Maharaj took was as a consequence of that meeting. So he met Srila Prabhupada, and this meeting was at the manor, right? It was a Bhaktivedanta manor in Srila Prabhupada's rooms, and Maharaj was expressing that he would have, really liked to join ISKCON and even take initiation, but he's already initiated. And Prabhupada asked, well, where are you initiated into? And he said, to the Madhava Sampradaya. Srila Prabhupada said, we are also Madhava Sampradaya. And Prabhupada told him, he says, why don't you join ISKCON and help us preach? Up until that time, well, there was no Indian body devotee living in the temple. There was a few devotees who were initiated but working, but aside from that, no one who was actually a resident. So Srila Prabhupada asked Maharaj, he says, why don't you help me preach and spread Krishna consciousness? And he said, I'll give you sannyas. So there's two things that came from this discussion. One is that Maharaj immediately accepted Srila Prabhupada as his sannyas guru. Now, as it turned out, Srila Prabhupada left the world before that became a reality. But the other was, and probably of the two even more striking, was that Krishnadas Maharaj joined. Now he was, how old was he then? He was 40. He was 40 years old, which means that he was old enough to be most devotees' father in the temple, and he moved into Bury Place. Bury Place. He moved into Bury Place. He lived with the brahmacharis. I don't know if you've ever seen Bury Place. Bury Place was a tiny little temple. In the morning you had to stand in queue to get to the bathroom. It was very austere. And he left his family. He left his wife. He left his children. Well, some of his family members still have difficulty digesting that. But it's very rare that family members digest the fact that their husband, children take sannyas. My family never digested it, even though they didn't even know what sannyas was. All they knew was that our line was coming to an end. And but he was of Indian origin, and Srila Prabhupada would often say, the good quality of my Western followers is that they're detached from family life, whereas with those of Indian origin, they're very, very attached. So it's a very rare thing that this person left young children and his wife, and he left and he moved into the temple. A very, very brave thing to do. And that characterizes Maharaj. Maharaj was a very brave person. He was a very bold preacher, very brave, very straightforward. And then he used to go around, and I think he went around with Vichitravirya Prabhu, was one of his Sankirtan partners, and making life members. And Vichitravirya Prabhu would bring him in. And then, of course, number one, he's older. Number two, he's Indian. So he can talk, now life members means the Indian community. He can talk to the members of the Indian community in a way the Westerners couldn't. And he did, and he continued to. And that was, if you think about it, that was a very, very extraordinary thing to do. We Westerners, we left our families, but very often we left our families before we even knew about Krishna consciousness, what to speak of after. And it was the tradition, it was the thing that was done. But here was Maharaj. Prabhupada said, take sannyas and help me. And it's something that characterized Krishnadas Swami Maharaj over the years, and I'm emphasizing that because it gives you an idea of, he was really Prabhupada man. He did what Prabhupada asked him. Whether Srila Prabhupada actually expected him to do it is another thing. Srila Prabhupada isn't here to ask. What were the chances that someone was going to just drop everything and move in? Well, Maharaj did it. And he did it under very austere circumstances. And since then, he continued to preach, to travel, took sannyas, and had very, very bad health. And despite his bad health, he continued to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. Now, this issue came up about Krishnadas Swami Maharaj when at a certain point in the UK, after Srila Prabhupada, of course Srila Prabhupada had already left, and after the sort of zonal acharya system was dismantled, and devotees, specifically Prabhupada's disciples, others could also accept disciples. And I started to, as the GBC, get letters from different devotees saying they wanted to accept Maharaj as their guru, and why can't he initiate? And we hadn't thought about that as yet, but then we started to discuss that. And ultimately, the Management Council of the UK proposed, yes, why not? After all, Krishnadas Maharaj is a Prabhupada man. But he didn't have Diksha, he didn't have initiation from Prabhupada. So this issue came up, it came up at the GBC, and I had to present that. But when you see Maharaj's activities and this proposal in light of his whole commitment to Krishna consciousness, and the fact that we're a Bhagavat Parampara, we're not a Diksha Parampara. We speak about it a lot. Now, here was a time, do we really follow that? Do we really accept that? And therefore, ultimately, there's no objection to Maharaj continuing in that, or taking up that role of being an initiating guru. And of course, here are many, many of his disciples who are flying in from all over the world. And of course, that started in the UK. So for me, this was something that I'll always remember, and it's an example that I've used to many devotees. Now when I go to the United Kingdom, then generally I preach to the younger devotees, Indian devotees. Pandava is saying, at least take out 2 years, move into the temple and learn what it's like to be a brahmachari. You don't know what Krishna consciousness is about until you do that. It's very hard. Family attachment is one, and the pressure that comes from family to actually conform, education, immediately get a job, be well situated. But this idea of renunciation didn't come from the West. This is the Bhagavad tradition. This is the tradition that came here from India. So Maharaj was a very determined person. This gives you an idea of how determined he was. And he was a very powerful preacher. We had many exchanges. We had our disagreements. And I remember even one when I was in Coventry, I can't remember the time, I objected to a picture of Kalki being on the altar. I told him this is not what Srila Prabhupada wanted. If we want, we should put somewhere else, but not there. And we went back and forth and argued and spoke Shastra and what is Prabhupada's tradition. And finally I said, okay, Maharaj, we're not going to get anywhere. I'm the GBC. Are you going to do what I ask you to do? So he told Haridas, all right, take it off. So, although sometime later they put it back on again. And I had to again. So, but yes, ultimately when push came to shove, Maharaj did as Srila Prabhupada wanted to be done, and to actually follow both the GBC, to follow Srila Prabhupada, to serve the Krishna consciousness movement in the way that Srila Prabhupada wanted, the way that Prabhupada personally asked him, come and help me. And that request of Srila Prabhupada is still a living request. Srila Prabhupada is still asking everyone, come and help me spread this Krishna consciousness movement. We're far from having done it. I'll just close with another remembrance because I've spoken for 20 minutes. We had, I would often, we'd have lunch. Often we used to have lunch in the library of the manor. That was sort of a lunchroom at that time. This was during the time when Bhagwan was the GBC, but it may have been after. And after lunch, me and Maharaj would sit there and he would talk. I would just ask him questions. I would say, okay, tell me, and we got into this thing about asking different personalities. I said, all right, tell me the history of this person. And he knew, but you know, like, and it would go on. It could go on for hours. The one that sticks in my mind was when he told me about Shankaracharya and Shankaracharya's life, right from beginning all the way to the end. So this time we'd had a conversation. We were going back to the manor, and I remember standing in the, probably I was living in my motorhome at that time, but that's why we were out there. We were in a parking lot, not the new parking lot, but what was the tennis court. And that's also another, was the parking lot at that time. And we're standing there and we're sort of closed, and I don't know why, but Maharaj brought this thing. He told me, you know, Maharaj, an astrologer told me that I still have to take one more birth in this material world. In other words, he was saying it like, well, I'm not going to go back to Godhead in our next life. And I replied, I said, well, it doesn't take an astrologer to tell you that. Everyone's taking one more birth in the material world. And he says, what do you mean? He says, because our system is that when a sadhaka leaves this body and he attains the perfection of his sadhana, then he goes to that place within the material creation where Krishna is manifesting his Leela. And there he gets his spiritual body and he gets further trained by Krishna's associates, and then he goes back to Godhead. And Maharaj was really happy about that. And I mention that because Maharaj is gone. His disciples were very, very clever not to waste any time. Had he wasted an hour, then he would have left his body in Haryana or Delhi. They came and brought him to Vrindavan. This is always a, sentiment and this idea of prolonging life. For a Vaishnava, it doesn't matter how many times Prabhupada said, what does it matter whether you live or die? You serve in this body, you serve in another body. So Maharaj, already that's a guarantee. You leave your body in Braj, then you go to Krishna and take birth in that place where Krishna is manifesting his Leela, receive a body that's conducive for higher stages of spiritual practice, and then from there you go back home, back to Godhead. So it was my great pleasure to know Krishnadas Swami Maharaj. It was an honor, and he'll be sorely missed, but this is the way of this world. Krishna Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Invite some of the devotees to come forward. And some of them may not say anything, but I'd like to just recognize their service and commitment to His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj. That's all. First and foremost, I'd like to just ask Chacha. This is Lohidev Chacha, who is the brother of the younger brother of Guru Maharaj. And over the years, Chacha and his wife, our auntie, Chachi, together with his son Tamal, who was initiated by Guru Maharaj, and his wife, Gata Shakti, have served Guru Maharaj completely. They put 100% effort. And I know that Guru Maharaj was very, very pleased with him and the whole family. And the connection was very much spiritually based. He won't say anything, but he's very, very humble. But can we just give a round of applause for his service as spiritual service? I'd like to call upon the devotees from South Africa, Dear Chaturan and Suya. And whoever's going to the hospice, please just come forward from South Africa. While they're doing that, I'm just going to read a little bit about the life history of Maharaj. Maharaj appeared in the town of Kapurthala in Punjab. Please, devotees, come forward. Who's going to the hospice, please come forward. In Punjab on the 2nd of June, 1932. So his age, he just passed 84. One of the doctors said to me, he had a very good innings. I was trying to understand what he was saying. And then I realized he was a great cricket fan. He had a very good innings, 84. Not bad. At a young age, Maharaj left his parents' home and was raised by his maternal grandfather, his Nana, a devout Krishna. Under his personal guidance, Maharaj learned the Ramayana at the age of 10, and he memorized all of the verses in the Bhagavad-Gita by the age of 16. Right from a young age, Maharaj was raised as a missionary, and to this end, his wise grandfather made him his own aware of the history of other religions, such as Sikhism. I remember one incident, we were invited by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community to come and preach in their mosque. I think it was in the late 90s. And we were wondering what to say, because we were quite mature at that time. And it so happened that Maharaj flew in from, I think, India at the weekend when we were meant to go to the mosque. So we asked him, please come, because we are lost as to what to say. He came, he preached to the Ahmadiyya Muslims, and he won them over so beautifully. And there were several meetings where he presented the Bhagavad-Gita to many of their leaders. But he was so knowledgeable in their scriptures, he was able to talk to them on their level, but even Krishna consciousness twist to it. It was amazing. So, Priya, can you say a few words?
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Devaya Krishna Prasaya Krishna Krishna Daswanjananya. Namo Vishnu Devaya Krishna Prasaya Krishna I remember Guru Maharaj, when always Guru Maharaj used to come to South Africa, Guru Maharaj used to preach, and the first thing Guru Maharaj used to say is, live for Krishna, die for Krishna. Guru Maharaj also used to teach us that also when we are referring to Krishna, don't just say Krishna, always say Lord Shri Krishna. Try never ever to say just Krishna, must always say Lord Shri Krishna. Guru Maharaj taught us that we must always take care of our parents. Don't ever let our parents down. Make sure that our parents are always taken care of. Those are the things that Guru Maharaj really taught us. A few things that Guru Maharaj taught us really sticks in our mind. And also Guru Maharaj used to tell in every class, only read Srila Prabhupada's books and no other books. There was two reasons for that. One was that we wouldn't have any time to read any other books because there was so much to read in Srila Prabhupada's books. And second thing is that whatever we wanted to know was in Srila Prabhupada's books. We didn't have to read any other books but only Srila Prabhupada's books. Those are the few things that Guru Maharaj really taught us, and it is quite difficult for us to forget those things that Guru Maharaj.
Vrindavan is one of the leaders of the Krishna movement in South Africa, and there's one person that I'd like to call upon, who I think I found as one of the strongest devotees I've ever met. Under very trying circumstances, where the odds were completely stacked against her, but she just held on to the lotus feet of Guru Maharaj, and she came out with really flying colors. And that is Ansuya Mataji.
ज्ञाननिर्मितस्य निरञ्जनसमानया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्कं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते कृष्णदास स्वामी नामिने। श्री गुरु महाराज की जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की। Guru Maharaj, please accept our most humble obeisances at the dust of your divine lotus feet. Guru Maharaj was trained as a preacher of Sanatana Dharma. Guru Maharaj at a very early age memorized the whole of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is 700 verses, and then learned that Bhakti-yoga and then Ramayana. And then at the age of 16, Guru Maharaj took initiation into the Brahma Sampradaya by the Param Pujya Pandit Trilochanji Maharaj, who was Srila Guru Maharaj's initiating spiritual master. And we offer our most humble obeisances unto Guru Maharaj's spiritual master. It is said that one in motherhood is successful if one's son becomes a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, or if he is a charitable person, a Danveer, or if not, a Deshbhakt. And Srila Guru Maharaj was the three. Param Guru Maharaj taught Srila Guru Maharaj many Puranas, and Param Guru Maharaj took Guru Maharaj on pilgrimage like 68 years ago. Srila Guru Maharaj's first yatra was to Kurukshetra, and that was by foot, by Param Guru Maharaj. And then to the purest of the pure places, Shri Vrindavan. Guru Maharaj was the youngest amongst his godbrothers and god-sisters. And Shri Guru Maharaj used to always be in the back of the yatra. He used to never be in the front with his other godbrothers and sisters. And then Shri Guru Maharaj used to be very amazed on how the Param Guru Maharaj used to explain the glories of the pastimes of Shri Krishna. And the disciples used to be rolling in the dust of Shri Vrindavan. He said for the last decade, he said Guru Maharaj was very much into serving, he said Gomata as requested by his spiritual master. Guru Maharaj had naturally followed the four regulative principles since birth, and he has never broken those vows. Guru Maharaj led a life of preaching only about Dharma. Guru Maharaj was extremely glorious. Srila Guru Maharaj was here with Srila Prabhupada. He said the Krishna Balaram Mandir was opened. And then every once or twice a year, Srila Guru Maharaj used to look forward to visiting Sri Vrindavan and so many other holy places. And just a few months ago in April, Guru Maharaj was here in Sri Vrindavan. And although Guru Maharaj's health was extremely poor, maybe right up to maybe 2 o'clock, Guru Maharaj would get little strength to walk. But Guru Maharaj will tell us, start booking the taxi so that we can go to Vaishana, we can do Govardhan Parikrama. And when we used to be doing the Govardhan Parikrama, and we used to, as devotees, we tend to chat, why we are taking darshan. But Guru Maharaj used to be extremely heavy with us. Use your eyes, purify your eyes, and take darshan of the holy places. Do not waste this human form of life. And one of the Guru Maharaj is saying was that this human form of life is meant for self-realization and not sense-gratification. And when we do preaching there, prison preaching or ABH, or to the old age homes, you will ask the prisoners or you ask the old age home, what is the purpose of the human form of life? And they will say, self-realization. So Guru Maharaj, I would really like to thank Guru Maharaj from the bottom of our hearts. We are going to really miss Guru Maharaj's association, but it has His Holiness Swami Maharaj explained to us yesterday that there is Vani and there is Vapu. And Vapu, the association of the spiritual master, is that we get for a few months, but is that Vani that can stay with us 24 hours a day. So although Guru Maharaj is not going to be physically present here to instruct us, but Guru Maharaj, I know that you are never going to leave each and every disciple. You're going to be instructing us, and it's going to be a promise from the disciples that please, if we want to please Guru Maharaj, we have to follow the instructions of Srila Guru Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Guru Maharaj ki.
I'd like to just also introduce Shatrughna Prabhu. He's not going to speak, but he's one of the most dedicated disciples of Guru Maharaj. He would travel from South Africa to India maybe 8 or 9, maybe 7 or 8 times a year. When just now he found out that Maharaj is not well, he was in hospital, he immediately didn't go to work and booked his flight to India. And it was an excellent thing that you came. You made fantastic judgment because he was needed. So I'd like to thank my wonderful godfather for his dedication, loyalty to Maharaj. And he's been completely broken-hearted. And Guru Maharaj will never leave us, especially when we have been associated with wonderful Vaishnavas. Guru Maharaj ki. This is the grandson of Guru Maharaj. His name is Rakesh. You know him also is Riku. I like these names. King Cool or King Cool. Why don't we just use a wonderful name that the Father is going to give us? But anyway. He's, I would say, a wonderful soul because he's visiting the Hare Krishna temple in Soho Street, central London, and he's doing very, very nice and regular service there. And he's very much inspired by his grandfather.
Hare Krishna, Shri Radhe Radhe. Please forgive me. I haven't really got a speech. I've been on the plane thinking about what is the final lesson that I'm going to learn from Maharaj / my grandfather, also known as Pittaji, meaning father to me. And as I've come here, I've been hearing nothing but glorification. So it is my duty to share one of my intimate reflections of my grandfather, so you can understand what kind of individual he was. Now, a couple of years back, I introduced my wife to my grandfather, and my earliest remembrance of my grandfather was him teaching me the Maha Mantra. And I was telling this to my wife as we were coming, and I would say, whenever my grandfather used to ring, he would always ask, "Do you chant?" And I'm being a child, why lie to my grandfather? Because I knew he was a sannyasi. I said, no. But whenever my grandfather used to visit the house, the family, that's it. TV was switched off, no music, and that's it. Sit down. Any of my mates came, wanted to say, right, let's go play football. No, everyone sits there for 2 hours. We were chanting, and they look at the time and they go to my grandfather, "We need to go. It's our time to go home." But I was telling these pastimes to my wife. When my wife met my grandfather for the first time, it was there where I learned something really new. Because the first time I held you when he was a child, a baby, because I whispered a Maha Mantra in your ear. And when I started to chant, I always used to think, if only my grandfather knew, because there was times, as you know in spiritual life, you go up with your chanting and you go down also, depending on how strong the sadhana is. And I was just thinking, and I was used to have this conversation. And one time I spoke to my grandfather over the phone, and I was having this conversation, and he goes, "I know everything, because everyone tells me what kind of service you were doing and what kind of chanting. But the most important thing I want today is for you all to share with me and say the Maha Mantra. So please join me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The most, over the last 24 hours, the only deep reflections I can process at the moment, treasure sadhu sangha. You guys are fortunate enough to spend this time with my grandfather and the Maharajas that come here. My relationship is more majority based on Vani. My relationship with my grandfather wasn't the typical grandfather and grandson. When I used to see him, I wasn't interested in mundane conversations of what you studying up. No, he was there because I had all these spiritual questions that my parents couldn't fulfill. They said, "Go ask your grandfather. He's wise." So every time, that's it. Get the formalities out of the way, that's it, Q&A. And he was always impressed because I was always spiritually inclined. But it goes back to that very moment when he must have whispered that Maha Mantra in my ear, which must have triggered me to become this much spiritually inclined. Apologies if I've offended you by calling my grandfather, even though he's supposed to be addressed Maharaj. Please forgive me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, next should be the last This is Dr. Shiv Sharma, also initiated disciple of Guru Maharaj. He's a session judge, retired you could say, but in my eyes he's not retired at all. We came on Thursday at midnight, just after midnight, with the intention to go to the UK on the Saturday. But in the meantime, Guru Maharaj felt so ill that we had to go to the hospital. So on the Friday night, he was hospitalized. We went to the ashram in Gurgaon of Shamaji, And then he was hospitalized, and then for the next 5 days, he spent in the hospital until we brought him to Vrindavan. In that time, the family of Shiv Prabhu and his Dharmapatni have been extraordinarily helpful, and without their assistance, I'm not sure what we would have done.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Guru Maharaj, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj.
Okay, I'd like to call upon devotees who have been initiated by Guru Maharaj for a long, long time. This is my Dharmapatni Jayanti, and Krishna Prem, who was initiated at the age of 11, and Parthasaki was initiated at the age of 13. So let them say a few words.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaputale Srimati Bhakti-yoga Swami Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaputale Srimati Krishna Swami Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaputale Srimati Shiva. Thank you, Shiva Maharaj, for reassurance that you gave us yesterday as disciples. We really appreciate that from my heart. Maharaj was a living example of compassion, love and care. He was the most loving person that I know, and he took everyone on board no matter who they were. I wish that the disciples can carry on with all the instructions that he's left us, and carry on the legacy to serve Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My Guru Maharaj would always, in every class or lecture or any gathering of devotees, he would always say 4 things about them. Matri Dharmabhava, Pitri Dharmabhava, Acharya Dharmabhava, Atiti Dharmabhava. Our tradition is we must first behave like human beings before we become devotees. As Sri Prabhupada said, first you have to become conscious before you become Krishna conscious. I'd just like to share a few stories that may highlight just some of many qualities of Guru Maharaj. He came last year to Vrindavan in Kartik, and a group of us went with him to Vrindavan, and we all went to have a snan. And Guru Maharaj's health was so difficult, even despite that, he sat on the steps of Vrindavan. His disciples were there bringing buckets and jugs and trying to bring the water to him. I was there, and he told me not to do it, to go sit somewhere else. I became really upset with that. And then we came back here to the guest house, and then later on he told me that I have some skin issue. My Guru Maharaj said straight away that he doesn't want my skin to be affected by the mosquitoes. So he told me to go and cover up and just go sit somewhere else. So he was, I never thought of it, but he was so caring and compassionate. He was always thinking about our health and how it can affect our service. And Guru Maharaj is so strong, he was really bold and great in some of the things he would do. I've known him for 27 years, and ever since I can remember, his health has always been so difficult. And despite that, he would always travel every year without fail to UK, South Africa, Mauritius, and then even more places. Just the journey itself would knock him out. But he saw it as a service to Sri Prabhupada, and also because our disciples are so lazy to go see him, he would have to come.
Guru Maharaj ki.
Thank you for allowing me to do whatever insignificant service I can do. He came every year to UK and to devotees just to
accept the service. She's so merciful. So this one offering from J. Swami Maharaj. With the departure of His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, we lose the association of a staunch Vaishnava, a father to many, a rigorous preacher and a friend. I first met him at Bhakti-Yoga Manor many years ago. I saw him as a person of firm conviction and dedication. He impressed me then as a cultured devotee, firmly established in religious principles and devotional life. And though older, he had put other concerns aside to join the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Throughout the years, he was always friendly and welcoming towards me, and I benefited from his company. I saw too that by the strength of his Krishna consciousness, he brought out other people's faith in Krishna consciousness as well. May his memory continue to inspire us in devotional service always. Hare Krishna. Dear Swami Maharaj, I'd like to call upon His Holiness Maharaj. I remember one Rath Yatra in Battersea Park. It was Battersea Park in London. It used to be now having a Trafalgar Square. And before it used to be Trafalgar Square. But there was a few years where the Rath Yatra went to Battersea Park. And I recall, I think that was in the late 90s. And I recall one meeting where you and Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, embraced each other. But the embrace wasn't like a quick 1 second embrace. It went on for at least 5 or 10 minutes. And they were it was just the affection between the two. It just flowed between each other. But not only that, suddenly everybody was hugging. And the whole park was suddenly hugging and thinking, what's going on here? So I have to call upon Going Maharaj, please come and share your realizations and experiences. So very, very grateful. Maharaj said you may be coming from Kazakhstan. Have I said it right, Kazakhstan? Oh, another place. And then Maharaj said he's not coming. Oh, no. I didn't let anybody know. And then yesterday Maharaj said he is coming. With such enthusiasm, I thought, wow, really blessed by your presence.
Vanchikalpa Cha, Cha, Shri Krishna Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. From a philosophical perspective, we have heard from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he said he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die or are still in sound. Vaishnava dies to live, and living tries to spread the holy name around. We are unfortunate that we will not have the physical association with Sri Krishna Swami Maharaj. But we will always be blessed by his association in terms of the instructions and the example by which he led his life. I'm not really sure when I first met Maharaj, but I can honestly say that in the time I did meet him, it was always a very wonderful, it was always a very pleasing relationship. He was much older than myself. Gosh, I guess he was 20 years older than myself. But he was always like a very big, loving, elder brother. We always had a pleasing relationship. As Prabhu mentioned, whenever we met, it was always a matter of embracing, it was always a matter of joking with one another. He was very strong in his preaching. And I'd always joke with him when I would see him, and I would say, "Oh, you're Prabhupada's Punjabi tiger. You're a strong Punjabi tiger, preaching the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." I very much appreciated Maharaj's traditionalism. He was, sometimes it seemed that his traditionalism perhaps was at odds with ISKCON thing. But I always found it very enlightening. And because I traveled in South Africa, traveled in Mauritius, I could see how Maharaj inspired people so much, and how they loved him so much, and how they were ready to just dedicate their lives in service to ISKCON, to rendering service to Maharaj's Lotus feet. So, as I said in the beginning, it is lost for us that physically he will not be present. But we should remember his lifetime of service to Lord Krishna. And we should remember his lifetime of service to Srila Prabhupada and the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Take inspiration from that, and he will always be with us. So for all of Maharaj's disciples, I would like to offer my condolences to you all for your loss. The Srila Bhakti-yoga said, "The Vaishnava dies to live, and living dies to spread the holy name around." It's really, for me to be here at this time was not part of the schedule, but I guess this is just the mercy of Srila Prabhupada's Punjabi tiger. Srila Krishna Swami Maharaj Ki.
Maharaj Ki.
I want to read one more thing, and then we'll just call upon Swami Maharaj, who has just for this purpose to glorify Maharaj on the way to South Africa, and we really appreciate his commitment to him. So the message of condolence to his Divine Grace Srila Krishna Swami Maharaj from Pakistan Das Goswami, who is spiritual master, main base in South Africa. On Wednesday, 20th July 2016, I heard the shocking news that His Divine Grace has left his mortal body in the district of Vrindavan. I first met Sri Krishna Maharaj around 1987 or 88 and was immediately attracted towards his saintly qualities. Sri Krishna Maharaj comes from a different background than the vast majority of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. He was born in a staunch Hindu family and broke away from the traditional Hindu culture to become a Vaishnava preacher in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Although already initiated,
he took shelter of Srila Prabhupada and became a strong preacher of Krishna consciousness in England, then in South Africa, Mauritius, Botswana, etc. Maharaj attracted many persons who would otherwise have been lost in what we loosely call hodgepodge Hinduism to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada describes our present-day Hinduism as a hodgepodge institution of various concocted ideas. The main influence in Hinduism today is Mayavad, Vaishnavism in process. I'm completely related to this because we do a lot of teaching in schools in the UK, and the syllabus is all related to Brahman. The Brahman is the ultimate. You won't even see the word Krishna in the religious syllabus for Hinduism. It's a real shame, but we're hoping to change that. Srila Krishnadas Maharaj took a strong stand in preaching Vaishnava philosophy that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that we are His eternal servants. He was rigid and staunch in his conception and attracted many people to Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. In my humble way, I would like to offer my services to any of Srila Krishnadas Swami Maharaj's followers. And I encourage them to continue worshipping the Param Guru, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Yoga Swami, Srila Prabhupada, and stay staunchly loyal to Srila Prabhupada's personal preaching mission, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This was one of his strongest desires. Maharaj always wants us to be completely dedicated to Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. Another important consideration is that the day before Srila Krishnadas Maharaj departed was Guru Purnima and the disappearance of Srila Sanatana Goswami. This day is recognized in Hindu culture as the day we worship the Guru. I feel confident that Srila Krishnadas Maharaj has attained the Lord's pastimes. I shall pray to him for his mercy. I remain your servant, Parthasadi Das Goswami. Parthasadi Das Goswami ki jai. So slogan, let's come forward. I believe you are the temple president of Sri Radharanath Temple of Understanding, and a wonderful manager, leader there. So, thank you very much. Yes, please give him a big round of applause.
Hare Krishna. It's my great fortune to participate here in the holy land of Sri Vrindavan and the auspicious disappearance of Sri Krishna Swami Maharaj. I've known Sri Krishna Maharaj for my entire spiritual life. Indeed, he was the very first senior devotee sannyasi that I was engaged in service to. And it was very difficult for me to be with Maharaj. He wasn't, for me, the easiest person to develop a relationship with. And not because of him. He was a very uncompromising person, a very straightforward person. And I would hesitate to come before him because, at least I could be honest to myself, I wasn't a very straightforward and transparent person, and coming before him was difficult. Because he could see right through me and he would challenge me and challenge my non-Krishna conscious ideas, my mode of ignorance, my mode of passion, and he would always be encouraging us in a strong way to come up to higher levels of purity and Krishna consciousness. I personally learned so many things from him, and I wish I learned more things. They were there, spoken to me, said to me in so many ways, and I pray on this day that I can get the resolve, I develop the resolve to learn those things that he was trying to teach all of us. Today I especially want to pay tribute and recognize the wonderful followers of Krishna Maharaj. I feel it is, you can judge the quality and caliber of your spiritual teacher, spiritual master, by the caliber of his followers. And I've seen them up close serving in South Africa for so many years. And I'm always appreciative and amazed at how much of Guru Krishna love they have for their spiritual master. So many of the devotees have come here, and as Navinandan Prabhu was mentioning, pointing out the few devotees and their deep sacrifices in service for Maharaj. I myself tried on a few occasions to serve my spiritual master, and I can now look for inspiration to these wonderful devotees to also guide me and encourage me in how I can also deeply surrender. So today I want to offer my obeisances at their lotus feet and ask them to please bless me and guide me also in learning what I should have learned from His Holiness Krishna for all these years. And I thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be participating in this wonderful ceremony. Thank you. Shri Krishna Swami Maharaj Ki, Shri Prabhupada.
So I'd like to call upon His Holiness Maharaj to say a few words, and to say many words. Maharaj has been given the first and second initiation by His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, and he took sannyas initiation from Lokanath Swami Maharaj.
ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया येन तस्मै नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते कृष्णदासस्वामी Hare Krishna. I won't take much time. I had a very nice relationship with Guru Maharaj. Since 1991, Maharaj started in Botswana. Since then I had a relation with Maharaj. Somehow, as time goes on, we also move on. In like 2005, Guru Maharaj told me you must take sannyas. Guru Maharaj was not conquered, but he knowledge. In 2006, he insisted, you must write Vrindavan, get his application. So, 2009 I got sannyas, I went to Maharaj to take the same before I got sannyas. After sannyas, then I didn't have much time to serve Maharaj. The two ashram dharma clashes. And sannyasa ashram, the loyalty to the Prabhupada and surrender to the mission of Prabhupada is first and important. And also to serve, that is also important. But because of the nature of the service and the sannyasi doesn't get much time to live with the Guru. But whatever sannyasi does is of service. Somehow, I got a lot of inspiration in the spiritual life from Guru Maharaj. Guru doesn't have to stay with the verse, if you associate with him, the inspiration comes from the heart. So I used to serve Maharaj whenever I used to come to Botswana. I used to serve him. With his service, I learned so much that is helping me in the sannyasa also. So, not taking long time. I'm going to pray for all the devotees to bless me to continue the sannyasa. His Holiness Krishna Maharaj, Guru Maharaj ki
Ramani Maharaj ki. So I want to read it's quite a long statement by Bhakti-yoga Maharaj, and sort of reflects what you were saying, also Father Sadhu's Maharaj. It's very interesting. Dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisance, glory to the Prabhupada. One day in late January, or perhaps early February 1973, a devotee named Charandaravindra came into the main brahmachari room in ISKCON temple at Selberry Place, London, and told us how he had met an amazing devotee when he was preaching in East London, I think in an area called Forest Gate. The devotee was named Krishna Das. And he was from India. And he did not know about the existence of ISKCON or Srila Prabhupada. But as soon as he saw our brahmachari, he became extremely excited and inspired and wanted to know where in London he could find our devotees in temple. Shortly after that, Krishna Das visited very place and took part in the programs. George Harrison had recently donated Bhakti-Yoga Manor, and Srila Prabhupada spent some time there during that year. While Srila Prabhupada was staying in the manor, Krishna Das met him and was deeply impressed by him. Prabhupada asked him about his background and if he was initiated. And Krishna Das told him that he was already initiated in the Brahma Sampradaya. Srila Prabhupada told him that he should join the temple and that after some time he would give him sannyas. So this reflects very much what His Holiness Srila Maharaj was telling us earlier. Krishna Das was deeply affected by the meeting and would sometimes tell us about it. It was a life-changing experience for him. Not long after that, I think around July or August 73, he left his family and his school teaching and moved into the temple. He was considerably older than the brahmacharis, being about 40 years of age, whereas the other ashram residents were from their late teens to about 25 or so at the oldest. But everyone was very impressed with his sincerity and dedication in the outset. He was greatly respected by all. We had a queuing system for the shower in the brahmachari ashram, and there were about 50 of us. But he would patiently wait his turn with the other much younger men. He became close to the temple president, Vichitra, and they would regularly go out to do programs with Indian families around the country. Vichitra would sometimes tell us how Krishna Das would preach very strongly to these people and insist they become magnums and donors. I saw him in action during festivals at Bhakti-Yoga. He was literally like a transcendental lion, roaring at the people and powerfully arousing their sense of responsibility as people from Indian backgrounds. He glorified Srila Prabhupada very nicely, sometimes referring to him as the 13th martyr, and would tell the people that Prabhupada was the real representative of their culture and tradition. I've seen him one time, one devotee came and said something not so nice about Prabhupada. And Guru Maharaj was standing this close to that devotee and saying, you say one more word about Prabhupada and we know what's going to happen. Guru Maharaj was very, very strong. That devotee didn't say a word. In 1979, he went to the Mayapur festival with a group of us, led with the Vichitra Prabhu. Part of the mission was that he was going to visit his older family members in Punjab, where he was born and spent his early life. They were deeply disturbed that he had left his family and joined ISKCON full time. And Krishna Das was to meet them and try to make amends and pacify them. Vichitra went with them and later told us that it had been a hair-raising experience. The family had tried to force Krishna Das to go back to his wife and children in London. But Krishna Das would not hear of it at all. They then wanted to attack Krishna Das, but somehow he and Vichitra managed to escape. They actually had a knife in their hands and they tried to stab Maharaj. But in the process, they stabbed themselves, or the man stabbed himself. So this is the Lord protecting his devotee. Time then separated us for some years. But in around 1986 or 87, he started visiting South Africa on the invitation of Giriraj Maharaj. The yatra there had lost their TBC and Zonal Acharya Guru, Bhagwan Das, and it was a trying time. By now, Krishna Das was Krishna Das Swami,
having been given 4 sannyas by Shiva Maharaj in the interim period. Actually, that's not correct. Shiva Maharaj was explaining to us yesterday how, and he told us today as well, that Srila Prabhupada had invited His Holiness Krishna Swami into the sannyas ashram at the very first meeting. So, however, in the meantime, Srila Prabhupada left his body. So, I understand that in front of the murti of Srila Prabhupada, sannyas was awarded to Maharaj, and the presiding pujari was Dev Das at that time. And I was saying, Maharaj, how you were explaining yesterday that you gave the sannyas to His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, but actually he's always regarded as sannyas guru and as Srila Prabhupada. But because he wasn't formally present, it happened that way.
I actually went over it every time I actually went through it. It was after his operation with shock system, so crucibles.
He preached in his characteristic, powerful way, sometimes giving classes to Indian audiences until late at night. His influence helped stabilize the yatra after Bhagwan's departure. I remember one time he told a small group of us, it may have just been Devaraj Maharaj and me. Actually, I didn't even know this. How, as a boy of about 11, he had gone with a group of pilgrims to Sri Vrindavan. While walking through the town, he saw Krishna appear to him and became stunned. And he remained in the same place for hours, being separated from the pilgrim's party. Later, the party came looking for him and found him still anchored in the same place, unmoving. He often lamented the degradation of modern-day India, always fondly referring it to as Bharat, which of course is the traditional name for the country. In the late 80s, when a gentleman named V.P. Singh became Prime Minister of India and was trying to update the country to become some sort of modern westernized state, Krishna Das Maharaj would sometimes rail against him in his public programs, calling him Chandor Singh. In his heart, Maharaj wanted India to become the Bharat of its ancient tradition and knew that Krishna consciousness was the only thing that could help achieve that. In the last few years, I did not see Maharaj often, and I regret that very much. But he always continued preaching powerfully and glorification of Prabhupada as a savior of humanity. His contribution to Srila Prabhupada's movement was outstanding, and I'm sure he is at his lotus feet right now. I pray I can join him there with you guys. He's servant Bhakti-Yoga Swami. His Holiness Bhakti-Yoga Swami Maharaj ki. One devotee called Adopsaj, who is a disciple of Maharaj, had a dream yesterday, or the day before, at night, that Maharaj was indeed with Srila Prabhupada, and they were both smiling at each other. So it was very gratifying to read this offering and also remember that dream that devotee had. So I'd like to now take harmony, please come forward. Oh yes, I wanted to just ask Narayan, the wonderful devotee from Botswana. His son Madhumandan also wanted to be here, but he Oh, he's coming. So we never go. Welcome.
I gave my beloved sisters, Shila Prabhu, Shri Maharaj, all the best. And I thought my businesses would be complete today. I speak a few words about Guru Maharaj. I have been in association with Guru Maharaj for the last 30 years, almost 30 years with Krishna. And first I met him in Vrindavan. And after meeting him in Vrindavan, and thereafter he became my spiritual master. I have learned a lot about Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj has been talking a lot about Srila Prabhupada always encouraging us to glorify Srila Prabhupada, to glorify Go Mata, to do service of Go Mata. He has been telling us when you leave this body, physical body, it is a Go Mata who can take you into the better believer, better believer. We have learned from Guru Maharaj has been saying, Dharma Rakshatu Rakshati. If you protect the Dharma, Dharma will protect you. This is what we have learned from Guru Maharaj, from the very beginning. Guru Maharaj has been giving so many counseling at a personal level, which I can never forget. A time when Guru Maharaj was with us, for a short time, sometime when he's in a good mood, he will narrate Krishna Lila, short Krishna Lila, which was very, very inspiring. From Botswana Yatra, Guru Maharaj used to come to Botswana, the rishis of Botswana. He was very bold, like the kind of bold. He would speak publicly. He did not visited people, how great was his common cultivation ground. This one. Some people did not like it, but later on, many of them became vegetarian. So Guru Maharaj made a lot of contribution in all aspects of life. I remember Guru Maharaj was very much personally conscious about the behavior of the devotee. He was teaching us precepts, how to serve the Vaishnava devotee, how to serve the Krishna. I had an opportunity to meet him last week, for 2 days. I was sitting in the middle, and then Guru Maharaj said, don't forget Goseva. He gave me a personal counsel. In fact, 3-4 years back, he asked me, Narayana, what are your plans? What is your future plan? I was just looking at him, I said, Maharaj, my future plans are okay. I'm doing very well. I'm teaching profession, doing very well. Maharaj said, no, you are very foolish. You are very stupid. I'm trying to ask you, the future plan, when you leave this body, what have you done in this yuga? Lord has sent you for service. Then I will understand. Maharaj gave me a personal instructions. Better no. You are very easy now, old. Leave your job now. I want to say, no more teaching. No more teaching now. Come back to Bharat. Do service of the Lordship. Go to Dham and pass your last days of the life in service of the Krishna. These were the instructions from Guru Maharaj. I do it very naturally. Every time I meet Guru Maharaj, after some time he will ask me, how far did you reach your plan? I said, Maharaj, I am in the process. Just the last month when I went from happy. Maharaj said, Beta, I wanted to ask you a specific date when I am coming to Maharaj. I said to Maharaj, I don't want to speak live to my spiritual master. By next year, 2017, I will be able to write it up because I stayed in Botswana for 30 years. Then how they were to come to Bharat and serve. He said, when I don't forget Goma service, Vaishnava devotee service. You are here, Guru Maharaj is teaching all the things. Guru Maharaj has been so particular about all the this one small thing to teach us, which is very hard to learn. One day I was attending the satsang of Guru Maharaj, and I was in a blue kurta, and Maharaj just told me to look at it. And Maharaj said, no, go and change the white kurta. For a Vaishnava devotee, when we are in satsang, dhoti, tilak and white kurta is very important. I was really impressed. I went immediately and then I came. So, devotees, Guru Maharaj has been a great inspiration for us. he has left a big vacuum, but it's going to be completed with all the mercy of the Vaishnava devotee, mercy of the Maharaj. So, today is the day I said I must express my thanks to all of you, and I must say thank you to my Guru Maharaj, thank you to all the Maharaj, and thank you to Vaishnava devotees for all these permissions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, now,
Hare Krishna, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Vishnu Sarvabhuma, Srimati Bhagavad-Gita, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Vishnu Sarvabhuma, Srimati Krishna Asana, Vichara Vishnu, Vipasana Devacha, Patitanam Bhavani Vishnu. So I also Maharaj in South Africa, and as everybody has been saying, we learned so much from His Holiness Krishna Maharaj, and especially, I guess one can only understand oneself how much somebody has done, and I cannot express what Maharaj did for me and my family members throughout our Krishna conscious life. So one program that I had arranged for His Holiness Krishna Maharaj in area of Swami, they came in the car and outside the house of congregation member, and we were all waiting for them to come out, but they wouldn't get out of the car. So I was wondering what's happening. So I went to the car, and Maharaj said, Vita, he says, we are sannyasis, these are the masters. They have to come and invite us inside, and then we will come. So I went into the house and told the guest because that please you invite Maharajs, and then they also came inside and said, now you have to tell us to sit down. They have some water and 6 words. So I learned afterwards whenever we had a program to follow the same procedure. And at one point, Krishna Maharaj, after one particular program, he called me to his room and he said, Vita, I heard you announcing that the guest speaker today is His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, who comes all the way from Punjab. He says, Beta, I don't come from Punjab. I come from Punjab. You have to announce that the guest speaker is His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, who hails all the way from Punjab. So the next day I was announcing, I changed the announcement, and but he was very happy. So like that Maharaj, there are many hundreds of examples of his loving ways of teaching, and he was just amazing. Once I told Maharaj, he told me, you didn't come to the recitation of the Bhagavad-Gita on Gita Jayanti. So the truth was that it was very hot and I wasn't feeling well, and just to make the effort to find transport and go there, I just didn't make the effort and didn't go. So when he asked me, you didn't come, I said, oh Maharaj, I didn't have transport and I didn't know how to come, so he says, Beta, you, if you had just asked any of my disciples, they would have happily brought you there. He says, if you want to make it constant, he says you have to perform austerity. If you don't perform austerity, you cannot make it constant. Then later on he also advised me to come to India to preach here because I could speak 3 languages, Gujarati and Hindi. So he says, please come to Bharat and by my Guru Maharaj's blessings and Maharaj's blessings and Bhakti-yoga Maharaj who also told me that I have been in India for some time. And this was auspicious day, but very sadly also, of the disappearance of His Holiness Swami Maharaj. I want to thank him for everything that he did for me and my family, and to please forgive me for any offenses, and to always keep the association of his wonderful disciples and the wonderful devotees in this country. Maharaj and the Gurus. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Chindamani Mataji ki. So I just wanted to read a little bit about Maharaj. It's a very brief biography. After searching earnestly for spiritual master, Maharaj at the tender age of 16 was initiated into the Brahma Sampradaya by His Holiness Tilotan Ji Maharaj Parampara. His education, parallel to Vaishnava training, Maharaj also studied at the Punjab University and after qualification joined the State Civil Service Education Board. Maharaj served as a headmaster in a secondary school teaching English, Hindi and social studies. Apart from Hindi and English, Maharaj also knows various languages like Sanskrit, Punjabi, Urdu, and can read and understand Gujarati and recently Gujarati. So I remember one of the first occasions he came to our house and we were serving him and he asked for something and we didn't have it, so we were saying that in Gujarati, nothing about us, And of course he understood everything we were saying, so I was thinking, you're not quite catching. And he said, no problem, don't worry. So I realized that I've been not speaking Gujarati, thinking that he may not understand it. He didn't understand it. I remember he used to ask for Indian news, and we had a Gujarati paper, and he asked me to read it. Of course, I had been in the country since I was 8, in the UK since 11. I could go out to Gujarati completely. So he'd take the paper, and he'd read it. It's in Gujarati, he'd still read it, and understand it. So it's quite proficient in the Indian languages. Knowing that Maharaj was meant to serve a higher purpose, His Holiness, his respected spiritual master, ordered Maharaj to renounce his civil servant duties and embark on a journey to the West in 1966 with the aim of preaching Sanatana Dharma. So, I remember Maharaj telling us that the day that His Holiness, his spiritual master, ordered him to go to the UK, after about 2 months, he had wound up everything. And on the 3rd of April, 1966, he left Bharat for the UK and he started preaching in London. As destiny would have it, one day, some ISKCON devotees visited Maharaj's residence to invite him to the temple in Vrindavan. Maharaj was very surprised seeing this English Vaishnava devotee. He went to the temple. The temple president at very place was most impressed with Maharaj and kindly requested His Holiness to give regular classes on both English and in Hindi on Sundays and festival days. Then the meeting with Srila Prabhupada during the historical 1972 London Rath Yatra, where Srila Prabhupada graced the occasion. This is the Rath Yatra race, danced, Srila Prabhupada danced all the way. Is that the one? That was the one. Maharaj had the divine opportunity to take darshan of Srila Prabhupada, unaware that his meeting would lead to a change of his ashram from Grihastha to students. An appointment was made, and a month later, Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada had a personal meeting at Bhakti-yoga. Spiritually searching questions were asked by Srila Prabhupada,
and Maharaj gave details of his Vaishnava training, his initiation, and his Diksha Guru's desire that Sanatana Dharma preaching be executed in the West. Pleased to hear this, Srila Prabhupada invited Maharaj to join ISKCON, and Maharaj explained that he could not abandon his sampradaya. Srila Prabhupada, pleased with Maharaj's loyalty, announced that both the sampradaya in which Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada were in was headed by Lord Brahma. So there was no question of Maharaj leaving his sampradaya. Then Srila Prabhupada suggested that Maharaj renounce his Grihastha ashram and take up sannyas. Although inspired about this proposal, Maharaj first wanted permission from his Diksha Guru. Through correspondence, His Holiness spiritual master, in a broad-minded spirit of true Vaishnava, knowing the benefit of Srila Prabhupada's proposal, gave his kind blessings to Maharaj Prabhupada. How extraordinary is that? Sannyas and Guru. As the eldest of 7 sons, so Maharaj has 6 other brothers, and as the father of 3 sons, Maharaj renounced his family attachments when his sons were old enough to follow Srila Prabhupada's desire to preach Krishna consciousness all over the world. In July, he joined ISKCON Soho, not Soho, but very close to that time, on 7th of April 1974. And then he moved to Bhakti-yoga on the 29th of October 1976. And he was at Bhakti-yoga for many years. And one of the highlights of his stay there was the installation of Sita Ramakrishna during Ram Navami in 1981. In July 1987, the GBC appointed His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj as an initiating Guru. Since then, he has initiated hundreds of disciples all over the world and is an inspiration to thousands of others. Maharaj is well known in the devotee community for strongly preaching of the basic principles of simple marriages and no divorce, amongst other things. Maharaj has had for many years been traveling constantly and preaching this message of Sanatana all over the world. So previously, he had been to places like Spain, Portugal, US, Trinidad, Suriname, Grenada, Venezuela, and so many places. On occasion, he has met and preached vegetarianism to world leaders, including the renowned Dr. Nelson Mandela. He also preached to mosques and met the leaders of the Muslim community, where he was unified peoples and enhanced the relationship between different spiritual faiths. This is a brief summary of Maharaj. I'd like to request Mother please come. She's come all the way from the US. It's a really phenomenal journey to make. And I'd like to thank you for your effort.
I've been living in the United States for about 10 years now. The majority of my relationship with Guru Maharaj has been over the phone call. And I remember that every time, I'll never forget Guru Maharaj's voice whenever he answered the phone, getting grateful for Monday. And the beginning of the call was beginning with the showering of blessings. And the end of the phone call was also filled with the showering of blessings. He was always encouraging. He would always say that I should see him personally. And he would always suggest me in planning out an itinerary and seeing how I can get leave from work. And he was so sharp. He always knew what date, what's happening on every single date. He would correct me. Even in America, he would know, wait, this festival is going to come. He's always just so sharp and caring. And Guru Maharaj knew, needless to say, Guru Maharaj knew what has to be done and what shouldn't be done. He just knew.
things that you would never learn anywhere else. Like, I remember one time when I did make it to South Africa for the Gita Yajna, you know, I walked in with my head covered with a white colored scarf, and Guru Maharaj said, it is not good for young girls to wear white. Go and change your scarf. And I was thinking that, you know, who's going to tell me something like this? Nobody would ever be able to educate me on things like this. Nobody would correct me in this way. And actually, Guru Maharaj saved my life. It's again needless to say, because if I had left for America, without having taken initiation from Guru Maharaj, there is no way I would be like, I would have definitely gotten entangled in all the things that happened in university life there. And it's Guru Maharaj's mercy that I stuck to my vow and I didn't get misled from the path of Krishna consciousness. And oftentimes I would feel very lonely because in America the devotees don't know Guru Maharaj so often, so they're always going to say spiritual master, and when I told them the name, they wouldn't really know. And once in a while I'd come across a devotee who knew Guru Maharaj, and I'd be so elated that they knew him, and I really regret that I didn't speak more about Guru Maharaj and tell more people about him, because anyone would benefit from learning about Guru Maharaj. But over time, Guru Maharaj has, because of his mercy, I've developed very loving relationships with certain very senior devotees in America, and they sheltered me. Even this just Wednesday hearing about what happened, I was so confused. There's nobody to be with, really. I was just sitting in the room and I was like, Guru Maharaj is gone. And I couldn't find a ticket because it's so far, I wouldn't make it in time. But like 5 hours before the plane took off, the travel agent called me and he said he found 2 tickets. And my brother happened to be arriving that same day, so I could travel with someone because I couldn't come alone here. And then all the dear devotees that Guru Maharaj has arranged to be a part of my life that came and supported me one after the other. Guru Maharaj, I'm really going to miss sitting at your lotus feet like the ignorant little daughter of yours. I really hope that you will accept if I can do some kirtan for you like you allowed me earlier this year in April. Please forgive me.
So actually, Mataji just had something she wanted to say. And she said she won't be able to sleep if she is laying on her chest.
So I also, when I heard the news, actually for the day before that, I was really very restless, and I was thinking of Maharaj about the time was leaving. I actually was trying to rest, but I couldn't rest. And when he did leave, then I was thinking, oh, I wish I could be there and help to decide things then, because I knew it was South Africa. But I just wasn't able to. But then this morning I heard from the devotees how Shiva and Swami helped the devotees, and I know that Krishna always makes arrangements for his pure devotees, and also because Krishna is such a pure devotee, definitely Krishna makes some arrangements for his disciples. So really would like to thank Maharaj for all the support that he gave the devotees. And he also is so encouraging for us devotees to see how loving the relationships are between God brothers and how you care for the God family. And at this time I also thank Srila Prabhupada for creating this ISKCON and giving us the association of these wonderful disciples who are also teaching us so many things, how to live lovingly, to just not waste time, fighting. We should just use all our time to develop our consciousness, develop our loving relationships, and ultimately to develop our love for Maharaj. And at this time, although I'm sure it's not out of place, but I also like to thank Swami for his wonderful books which are making, especially for me, I read Production of Bhagavad-Gita, but I was looking for something more than that, and by reading the books of Maharaj, I feel so much solace, and I can take shelter of the pastimes, and I feel I don't know what I've done without this, so thank you very much for very, very special service. All glories to all the devotees of the Lord, His Holiness Srila Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Krishna Das Swami Maharaj, His Divine Loving Grace Srila Prabhupada,
Dear devotees, I just wanted to share with you my experiences with Maharaj. I took initiation in 1988 from Maharaj, and that was in South London. He was always very, very strict, and we knew that being his disciple meant that you had to have a certain standard of behavior. When a sadhu comes, he expected to wash his feet and serve him. And we've had this comment many times. When we've done that, like recently, Chaitanya Chandra Maharaj came to South London, and we washed his feet, and he asked, whose disciples are you? Are you Krishna Swami's disciples? So Maharaj trained us quite strictly how to receive Vaishnavas. He trained us quite strictly in the religious practices, the spiritual practices. And as one day he said, wearing white, he corrected them. He was very much that way, and he would correct immediately. He wouldn't wait a second. He wouldn't care what you thought. He cared about you. He wouldn't care if I chastise this boy, he might think wrongly. He may give me less luxury. He may not serve me, so he didn't think like that. He would just chastise and train. And sometimes I would have to remind myself, because his chastisement sometimes would be continuous. And the spiritual master, his job is a thankless task. It is full of chastisement, because he's trying to train the devotees, the disciples. He cares for the disciples. So, sometimes Maharaj, he would put something forward which perhaps we may not agree with. And it was sometimes difficult to express properly that you didn't agree with what he was saying. But nonetheless, you would still give you the opportunity to say what you wanted to say. You would still not necessarily agree, but you would still give you that opportunity. Very open-minded. I learned so many things over the years from Maharaj. I know I will miss him. I know I will miss you, Maharaj. I don't regret that you have left the spiritual world. Because you wanted to go. You wanted to go. So I'm glad he is gone. I'm glad he's left with us an incredible legacy on which we can build. We know what we have to do. He's made it very, very clear. We do need him, but at the same time, he's driven it into our heads and our hearts. Become loyal to Prabhupada, become loyal to Krishna, be loyal to ISKCON, serve the Vaishnavas, serve the devotees. That is the secret to success. He would say, when you come to the temple, remember Krishna's given you everything you need. He's given you the air we breathe, He's given you the food that we eat, He's given us the place we live. He's given us wonderful parents, wonderful teachers. So don't come to the temple, my dear Lord, give me 5 rupees or 100,000 rupees. Don't come with that mentality. Come with the attitude, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? You've given me so much. Now, let me do something for you. You don't need anything, my dear Lord. You are Atmaram, you are self-satisfied. But still, let me do some seva for you. Let me do something for you. Lord is very kind, just like our parents. If we did something for them, they would become so good. Oh, our children, if they did something for us, how happy we would be. If we gave them some sweets and they offer those sweets back to us, how happy we would be. So everything's been given to us by the Lord. We give something back. Give something back to Him. Even though He doesn't need it. But He will intensify that service. He will look at that service and He will say, this is the most glorious service. I can't live without my devotees. So Guru Maharaj's attitude is very much like that. What can I do for you? How can I serve you? You've given us so much. How can I serve you? So I'd like to thank all the Vaishnavas here for participating in this festival. It is a festival. We are celebrating the life of His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj. He, as the doctor said yesterday, he had a good innings. He lived a long, nice life in Krishna consciousness. Till the end, he was fully conscious. It was so amazing. So yesterday, day before yesterday, on Wednesday, we saw him, his condition in the morning, and we decided we're going to take him to Vrindavan. So I humbly took off his mask and I asked him, Maharaj, it looks like your health is failing. The doctors want to put you on a ventilator, and we refused. We want to take you to Vrindavan now. And you see in front of me, Mataji, this is Dr. Shiv Sharma's wife, and she was very instrumental in our stay in Vrindavan and with the hospital doctors. If you want somebody to fight for you in the hospital with doctors, she's the one. So, Maharaj, he simply said, do it. That's what he said, do it. So we asked the doctors, we want to discharge papers now. The doctors said, or the billing department said, 3 hours.